Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me again on In the Know with David O. It's been really kind of a busy week. I hope yours was productive. Mine certainly was. We are back with three fantastic guests. Today, we're going to be talking to Robert Reed. He has had a long career in law enforcement, most of the time spent as a federal prosecutor, but now he's doing something different and something that involves you. He is now with the Attorney General's office, and he heads up their Office of Public Engagement, and perhaps you didn't know all the different things that the AG's office does. They do a lot, but he's here to talk about one of the things that they do with Reentry. And then we're going to talk to Craig White. He may be a name that you know. He's been around for 40 years in the music industry. He's the former president of the Philadelphia chapter of the Recording Academy. That's the Grammy folks. And he himself, top-notch engineer, has been credited on many Grammy award-winning and Grammy-nominated records and recordings. And then we're going to talk to an aspiring comedian launching her career. What's that like? Well, that's certainly a big challenge. But she is MC Chelci B, and we will be talking with her shortly. Let me start by thanking Weinerman Pain and Wellness. I do that because thanks to them, we can have this show. And in addition to which, thanks to them, many people are being treated well and recovering, rehabilitating from injuries. They do a great job. They're right here in Center City, Philadelphia. Check them out if you need them. Weinerman Pain and Wellness. Last week, we were talking to Deborah McGee. She is a homeowner that unfortunately, as you may have been reading or watching on television, we have a problem in Philadelphia where people break into your home while all your stuff is in there when you're away, and you come back and they change the locks, and then you call the police come by and they say, well, I met somebody on Craigslist and I'm leasing this place. I have no proof of it, by the way. I gave them cash. I don't know where they are, but I'm a tenant. And the police turn around and tell you to go file in landlord-tenant court, and 18 months later you're outside of your home struggling and wondering what happened. So anyway, she is a victim like many others in our city, and she has actually taken up the fight for herself and others so that we can ensure that the citizens are receiving the appropriate law enforcement protection that they pay for and deserve, as well as that we have an expedited court process that people need. And then we listened to Natalie Imani, fantastic voice, fantastic singer. She was just returning from South Africa. She was touring with John Legend. She's great. And you can catch her here in Philadelphia, Natalie Imani. And then finally we talked to Lucinda Trotter and Archie Leacock, two people involved with a nonprofit that put on a Stop the Violence hip-hop concert, which I was happy to attend last Saturday here in Philadelphia. Really important for us to address violence in this city. Let me introduce you to my first guest, Robert K. Reed. He's had more than 35 years in government service in both the federal and state governments. He has done a lot of things, particularly as a assistant U.S. attorney working in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and other places. Then he did something new in 2017. He joined the new Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, as his Executive Deputy Attorney General to lead the Office of Public Engagement, which is a new office, and there he oversees a team that focuses on educating the public across Pennsylvania about bullying, cyberbullying, identity theft, the opioid epidemic, elder abuse, and many other types of issues. Robert, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay. Well, listen, for a lot of people, they don't exactly know what is the difference between the district attorney's office, the county prosecutor's office, the U.S. attorney's office, the attorney general's, and I know we don't have all that much time, but in a kind of like a short statement, what could we say about the attorney general's office?
Well, to understand the difference, and this is a question that's often asked,
yes.
First of all, we have a federal constitution, the United States Constitution, and we have the Pennsylvania Constitution. When I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office, we were enforcing both the United States Constitution and federal law. So as a federal prosecutor, we would enforce the federal criminal law. As a state prosecutor and as a county prosecutor, you enforce the state constitution or violations of the state constitution and state statutory law, the state law. The Attorney General's office is, and the Attorney General, and I will just say that I am very fortunate to work for Josh Shapiro. He's a great man, and he's really done amazing things with the Attorney General's office. He is the chief state law enforcement official, and so we have limited jurisdiction, and in with respect to the criminal area, we do have a lot of, we do many cases. As a matter of fact, we've arrested, I think, 1,399 people this year in the narcotics drug area. But we also bring many other criminal cases under Pennsylvania law. We have an environmental group. We do a lot of cases with respect to organized crime and racketeering under state law. But there's also a huge civil section, which I believe has been in the news quite a bit with lawsuits that have been either initiated or joined by the Attorney General's office, questioning and really suing the efforts of the President with respect to immigration and other things. There's also an Office of Consumer Protection, which is amazing, and so they do a lot of great stuff. And as a matter of fact, that's, we have all sorts of, we would love to be able to reach out to everybody in Pennsylvania and let them know to call the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office when they have a consumer issue. And so this section that I'm involved in is the Office of Public Engagement, and it is newly designed and created when I started, and my colleague Pearl Kim.
Yes.
And together we lead a group of people who are essentially located all around the state, and they bring programming to, whether it's schools, we bring bullying and cyberbullying, we do a lot of work with elder abuse, but we also do many other things in terms of identity theft. But one of the areas, and I should say one of the big areas that I'm spending a lot of time on is the opioid epidemic, which is just so tragic. Right. But I also deal with gun violence and police community relations and civil rights and hate crime.
That is a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm so glad that you explained that, because it's a new Office of Public Engagement, and it's a statewide entity, as you said, the chief law enforcement official for the state of Pennsylvania, and yet we have these smaller jurisdictions like the city of Philadelphia or some borough or county or whatever, and they have their own jurisdiction, but people should really be aware of what the Attorney General's office does, and when in fact your local law enforcement may not be providing a certain type of program, like I know you're doing a lot with Reentry, the Attorney General's office might have a program that is not there in the jurisdiction that you're in.
That's right. Well, so to turn to Reentry, I know that based on my experience in federal government that there is a limit to what law enforcement can do. Now, as a 30-year veteran of law enforcement and as a federal prosecutor, I know that law enforcement can be extremely effective, because we initiate cases, we investigate cases, we prosecute cases.
Yes.
And that's true for the federal government, that's true for the state government, that's true for county district attorneys' offices and police departments. But there is a limit in certain areas as to how we can see a change, make a change, and make our society and our citizens safer. One of the things that I realized in my career with the U.S. Attorney's Office is this limitation, that we have to look at it in a much broader way. And that's one of the great things working with Josh Shapiro, is that he sees this and understands that you need to not only arrest people, as I said, we've arrested a whole bunch of people this year, but That's not going to, for example, in the opioid area,
Right.
that's not going to stop addiction. It's not going to stop drug dealing by itself. What we need to do is we need to do a lot of outreach. We need to talk about it as a public health crisis. And we need to see it in a much more holistic area. With respect to crime and violence, that's where reentry comes in. Reentry is one of the three prongs of what I think the criminal justice system has to do. And so, for example, we need to do a lot of outreach and do a lot of work on the prevention front.
Right.
So we need to get into schools and talk to kids and provide programming and anti-bullying efforts and show conflict of, that there's ways to resolve disputes without using violence.
And let me just interrupt for a second, because I think it's important, as you said, for the listeners to understand, arrests are something you do after crime is committed, and arresting people can be a measure of effectiveness, but at the end of the day, it's really not the goal. The goal is a peaceful, safe society, a community. We'd like to have people not become criminals or victims.
Exactly, and so this is a very complicated problem. I think for so many years, we focused on law enforcement as being the sole answer to so many of our society's problems.
Right.
That's why we have to do the prevention work up front. But what happens when someone goes to jail? Well, what happens is, and I know because I put a lot of people in jail and work with lots of great agents to do that, is that people go to jail and then they get out of jail, and what happens then? Well, for so long, people did not really take that serious. I shouldn't say, let me strike that. It's not that they didn't take it seriously, they didn't focus on it.
Right.
The bottom line is people said, people do the crime, they've got to do the time. And they forgot about what happened, what happens after they get out.
Yes.
And in fact, if 2 out of every 3 people, that's 67% of the people who go to prison get out and then commit another crime or do something that causes them to go back, then that system is really not working. And so the Attorney General has recognized this, and so as a result of that, we created something in May called the Pennsylvania Reentry Council.
Okay.
And we kicked this off because this is an effort to bring the state government, that is the governor's office, and Governor Wolf is totally supportive of this, with the Attorney General's office and other state agencies, with 21 county reentry coalitions. And we come together in this reentry council to identify all those challenges that people who are returning from prison face, and to provide hopefully resources and solutions to the issues that they face so that they don't go back to prison. Again, this is all about public safety. It's also a humane thing. How can we expect people to not commit crimes if all they've done prior to going to jail is committing crime? They've lived in an environment of crime.
Right.
Then they go to jail, and most prisons and jails are not necessarily going to make someone less violent, although some do.
Right.
But and we're hopeful that that happens.
Yes.
But oftentimes people get out and they commit crimes. So this is bringing together right now all of the people in the state, and we also have our federal colleagues from the U.S. Attorney's offices involved, coming together with the Department of Corrections, the State Department of Corrections, with Bureau of Probation and Parole, all of us working together to identify the resources, identify the challenges, and to figure out how best do we reduce the recidivism rate, and how best do we help people so that they don't commit other acts, and they get jobs, they get housing, they get education, and also we provide them the ability to really focus on their cognitive thinking. What was in their minds, or what's going on that really got them into this criminal lifestyle? And that's a very, very complicated, and that would, believe me, take many, many shows to talk about. But a lot of people who go into the criminal justice system have been traumatized or experiencing severe amounts of stress, unhealthy stress. We need to deal with that, and we need to help people understand that there is another way to go other than committing crime.
Well, I'm very glad to see this, and my listeners know that I'm a former Philadelphia Assistant DA, former prosecutor. I'm talking to another prosecutor right here, Robert Reed, certainly a lot more experience than I ever had. But at the end of the day, you know, for those who are grumbling about, hey, you're soft on crime, no, you're trying to be smart on crime, you're trying to be effective on crime, and you're trying not to have more criminals, or at least people who have made mistakes or done some terrible things, but have served their time in prison, not come into environments or circumstances where they do it again. I mean, I agree. Listen, sometimes my kids act up, I got to discipline them, but it is not my goal to keep disciplining them. I'd like to maybe discipline them once, and hopefully they'll behave themselves, and we can make sure that they have the right support. And I think it is the same thing, you know, kind of, as you said, a different perspective on how we can be effective on crime, not soft on crime, not hard on crime, but effective in providing a safe environment for everyone, and as good a life for people in Pennsylvania as possible. How is this new effort being received?
Well, I would like to say it's been received extremely well. I know that the people who are involved in this process are very excited.
Yes.
Because there are, first of all, a lot of people in the state didn't know what the people in the counties were doing. A lot of people in the counties didn't know what the state was doing, and then the federal government had their own thing going. Right. This is bringing everyone together. So number one, that's terrific. And so educating all of this, we'll call them the stakeholders, is really important.
Yes.
I think for people who are returning, at least know now that there is a place to go wherever they are in the state. They can now reach out to our Reentry Council, and they can at least be redirected to their local coalitions to assist them when they leave prison or after they've left prison. So this is a huge step forward. And as you said, and I just want to follow up on that, because again, I'd like to believe that as we get older, and I'm a lot older, you know, you learn in life, and you know, you grow as a person, and also you grow professionally. But one of the things that I've learned is that law enforcement cannot do it all. And I think one of the things we just see time and again is that there is just a limit to what law enforcement can do or should do. And we cannot, we're not in people's families, you know, when they're kids, and we are not with people, you have the parole office with people after they've been released from jail. So just putting people in jail and just assuming that they're going to stay there forever is not exactly what happens. What we have to do is we have to, looking at the big picture holistically, we have to find ways to assist people who are returning to make better decisions, and then have the opportunities to get jobs and to get appropriate training for new jobs and to actually have a home. There's a lot of people who are homeless. Yes. And to be reunified with their families. There are so many, and then there are women, I have to say, women coming back are a whole different, they face different challenges because of reunification with their families and children. And many women in particular are addicted, so we have to deal with addiction coming back out. And how do we reduce people from going back and using heroin or other drugs that causes them to go back into jail? So all of this is actually, in the long term, we believe, going to be life-saving on people who will not be victimized. Right. We will reduce costs, we're hoping, dramatically over time by keeping people from returning to prison. And we're going to be helping people who have returned to become better citizens and more supportive of everything else we're doing in our society.
Well, those sound like very good goals, and certainly we know that what we've been doing in the past has not been effective, and so here's a fresh approach, really trying to ensure that as many Pennsylvanians, as many people in our community live well, even those who have done time in prison, that we can all be productive here in this state. For people listening, is there an opportunity for them to learn more or to get engaged with your work?
Sure. And I just, before I answer that, just very quickly want to say that the creation of the Reentry Council is based on years of work that I have done and other people have done, yes, not just in Pennsylvania but around the country. And we have seen that effective reentry programs do reduce recidivism, reduce violence, reduce crime, and allow people who are returning to just do better in life and I've just seen that time and again. But there will be a website that's going to be going up relatively soon, I'm hoping within the next 30 days, so they can go on the Attorney General's website generally, and there will be a place for people to look at something that will be called the Pennsylvania Reentry Coalition, and they can go on that and they can get more information.
Well, that's great, and we're looking forward to checking out that website. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Everybody, this is Robert Reed, Executive Deputy Attorney General, Office of Public Engagement, and stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll be talking to a professional who can make you sound like $1 million. That is Craig White, so stay tuned. All right, we're back. We were just talking to Robert Reed, Executive Deputy Attorney General. You know, a lot of people don't really know, hey, what's the difference between the U.S. Attorney's Office, the DA's office, the Attorney General's office? Well, listen, the Attorney General is the elected statewide law enforcement official. They do criminal and civil. And he started a new office, the Office of Public Engagement. And so you could get your information about what they do. And sometimes if you don't have a program in your locale, there may be a program that's offered statewide, and Robert Reed was talking about the Reentry program. So check them out and be aware. Well, listen, right now we're going to talk to a wonderful gentleman, Craig White, super talented guy. He is the owner of Sound Doctor Productions, LLC. He's been doing that since January 2007. Prior to that, he was a chief recording engineer at Philadelphia International Records. You can imagine all the talent that's gone through there. And he is also a former chapter president of the Recording Academy, Philadelphia chapter. That's your Grammy folks. And he's also been a governor on their board of governors for the Philadelphia chapter of the Recording Academy. He has 40 years working on projects with artists such as, well, Patti LaBelle, Kool and the Gang, and so many others. His engineering credits include several Grammy Award-winning and Grammy-nominated projects. Craig White, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's good to see you.
Oh, thank you so very much. Listen, I always enjoy, you know, being in the presence of your company. Not only are you so talented and so respected, you're just a genuinely nice person.
I appreciate that, and back at you.
Oh, thank you. Well, listen, I appreciate having you in here because, you know, the work that you have done, just such a variety of work. And during a break where I was just joking with you, I was reading about some of your stuff in country music, but you've done virtually every genre of music in your years in the music industry.
Except for polka.
Is that right?
I haven't done polka
okay,
yet.
we'll put that on bucket list for you.
We find a good polka band, I might be up to tackling it.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, let me ask you, like, you know, so many people, they want to be performers, artists, they want to find success. And of course, you know, no matter how talented you are and all that, you still need an excellent sound, and that is what you provide. But all in all, have you come to a point where you can share some insights after all these years with our listeners about what it takes and how do you tell a talented person and someone who's really going to make it from someone who isn't?
That is such an excellent question. And we could talk all day about that, but I'll try to keep it concise. The first thing you have to do is, if you want to be successful, you've got to practice your craft. You can't make it a hobby, although for some people who think that they have talent, it probably should be a hobby.
Right.
That's another thing.
Okay.
But you have to practice your craft, you have to be dedicated to it, and you really have to immerse yourself in what it takes to be successful. Whether it's, and this isn't whether you sing, rap, play an instrument, whatever it is that you do, you got to be over your head immersed in it. That's the only way it works. Then you've got to have a team of people around you who can help you, whether it's engineers like myself, whether it's producers, whether it's other artists, whether it's whatever, management agents, that comes later. But you have to really have a team of people, and you have to be dedicated to what you do. And you've got to be real with yourself. You know, everyone is not cut out for this.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of things like American Idol and X Factor and this and that, not to throw stones at them, they're doing what they're doing for business reasons. But the perception is now that everybody's talented.
Everybody can just get out there.
Everybody can make it. No. Wrong. And so you have to be kind of real with yourself to understand, I can do this, and or I'm going to be dedicated enough to do it, and I'm going to stick with it, or I need to find something else to do. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. I started off as a musician, and you know, people come back later, man, you're a great musician, why'd you stop playing? Well, because that wasn't my gift. My gift is to do what I do. I'm an okay musician. I'm a musician by training in my brain, so when I work with artists, I have that to fall back on. But me being, you know, in the next Earth, Wind, and Fire, whatever, was not in my cards. My gift and my leaning is more towards the technical side and helping to develop other people to do what they do.
When did you discover that you had this gift and the desire to pursue it? Because as you said, you started off as a musician.
You know, it's funny how life is. And it's funny how things come into your life and you don't realize what's happening at the time.
Right.
As a 8-9-year-old kid, when my parents gave me my first tape recorder for Christmas, and I'm sticking the microphone out of the window recording birds and cars and whatever, you know, who knew? It was fun. I knew I enjoyed doing that particular thing, but it didn't really dawn on me that that would be the career. I took music lessons when you could still do that in public school. I started off playing trumpet, did that for years, did a couple years in college as a trumpet major, but then my band activities pulled me away from that. Traveled for a few years with a band, just a local pickup band, a top 40 band. It wasn't until later that I fell into the sound end of it full time, because I always did it while I was a musician. While I was playing trumpet with one hand and mixing the gig on the board next to me on stage with the other. So sooner or later, everything fell by the wayside, and you know, the sound and the engineering was left.
And how did you discover, in other words, how did you get the feedback that, hey, that's really good what you're doing? That's not just like anybody doing that. There's something special about what you're doing.
Part of it has to do with when you listen to all of your idols and influences, you know, and then you compare what you're doing to them. And you know, if it doesn't suck, then you know you're close. But it really has to do with feedback from people, from clients, from friends. You know, they'll say, man, and you may not think you've done anything special at that moment until someone comes and says, you know, that sounds pretty good. That's a great mix. That's pretty clear. You recorded that well, whatever. And that's when you start to know. And of course, that gives you a little encouragement. You keep on going, and you study and you learn as much as you can, and try to just keep your ears open and listen.
Is there an area of creativity and innovation that you add that perhaps the average person wouldn't understand?
I don't know if I add it, but I think that within the confines of all the equipment and all of the software that we have to work with these days, as you begin to find your particular niche and find what works for you, you begin to develop your own style and your own sound. Ideally as an engineer, and I think really as a producer, what you really want to do is be invisible to the situation. You don't want, and I mean, there have been a lot of producers who have made a ton of money by having an identifiable sound. I probably should have gone that way, but I didn't. But you learn, you know, you learn what to do and what not to do, and pretty soon you start to develop at least a signature of your work. And that can be as varied as anything.
When I look at some of the artists that you've worked with, and of course I have to name drop now, I mean Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff, Phyllis Hyman, Dexter Wansel, the
Dexter
Wansel, I'm
talented.
The OJs, Lou Rawls, you know, Reverend James Cleveland, just Tito Puente, Protege, Millie P, just so many different artists. I already mentioned Kool and the Gang. I didn't mention Celine Dion. What was your biggest moments with working with these folks and their music?
You know, it's interesting. A lot of those artists you mentioned I worked with directly, one-on-one in studio. Some I worked on projects containing their work. For instance, with the Celine project, a couple partners and I did a remix on it. On one of her songs. That moment of hearing Celine isolated on tape and just hearing her raw voice singing was unbelievable.
Wow.
People don't realize, as well as you may think Celine Dion sings, when you hear her voice on track, when she's just going for it, it's phenomenal.
Wow.
You know, Phyllis I never worked with directly, but not too long after I started working with Gamble and Huff, we released an album of some of her songs. I mixed virtually most of that album and did a lot of overdubs on it. But Phyllis sadly had passed before we had a chance to work with her directly.
Right.
But I've worked directly with the Jays and with Lou, and you know, the James Cleveland was one of the Grammy-winning projects.
Right.
So it's I've just been all over the map.
Right.
And that's a blessing. Actually.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm glad it went that way rather than me just being in one particular genre or the other.
Yeah, and I do have to mention that you are and have been a judge for PHL Live
Yes,
Second
I am.
Stage.
I love it.
Yeah, which you know, you're a judge again in the R&B category, right?
Yes,
And I think that's November the 27th.
I believe it is.
Yeah, at William Street Common.
Yep.
Yeah, and I only throw that out because it's something you do because you love music and you love the people who do it, and you give back to the industry. And I appreciated the city councilman because you're helping our city and the people in it. But I'm always just so surprised that people such as yourself are so accessible, and yet so few people take advantage of it in our city. And I'm just I'm berating people because if you want to be a musician, if you want to be a sound engineer, you have these Grammy award-winning people, these icons of music. And they'll show up at the place and they'll sit and judge music and they'll do all that stuff, and during the breaks they're available to talk with you, chat with you, and I would just think, like, if this were New York City, the place would be mobbed, and yet it's Philadelphia and we're a tough town.
Tough town.
Wow. Yeah.
Listen, I'm a transplant. I actually grew up in northern New Jersey.
Right.
So the early part of my career was in North Jersey, New York, that deal. Philly's an interesting town. It's been great for me. It's been a great life move to be here. I've been here 20 plus years now. I started working with Gamble and Huff in 1993. I missed the heyday, unfortunately. I was too young to be here when they were really, you know, doing it big. We did quite a bit after I got here, and it's just you don't understand sometimes how to approach people. I think a lot of people see us and they think that we're not approachable, and you know. Some people might not be as open as others. I mean, I think I'm a pretty open guy. If you approach me, we'll sit and
people might be intimidated
a little, but I think a lot of it also has to do with there's just a certain energy here in this town, and we haven't been able to identify what that is or why it is.
I call it the Philly chip on the shoulder.
It's a little of that.
People don't want to walk up and say, "Hey, listen, I admire you. You're fantastic. Could you give me some advice? Help me?" Things like that.
It just seems that, you know, the attitude seems to me to be that everybody is I won't say fake it until you make it, because that's not really true. But a lot of people want to give you the impression that they're on the same level or doing what you're doing. And not to disparage people, but sometimes that's not the right approach. When you're starting out, or if you need advice, you need input, you'll be a little humble.
Yeah, if you're a white belt, be a white belt.
Listen,
enjoy being a white belt. Don't walk around like you're a black belt. Don't talk to the black belts.
Yeah, exactly. You got to stay in your lane, and you got to be a little humble. And you also have to. Sometimes people look at you and judge whether you're serious or not by how you approach them or don't approach them.
Yeah, and that's important for me to shout out to our listeners, because what I'm saying is, don't do that.
Yeah.
Here is Craig White on the radio, and we just told you he's going to be at William Street Common on November the 27th for PHL Live Center Stage, and he makes himself available. He looks through all the submissions, the videos. He makes finalist decisions, and then he's going to judge the 5 finalists, and he's going to give him this expert feedback in the way of his decision. And while he's doing that, if you submitted or you didn't submit, you can meet him or talk to him, or if you have any interest in this, and it's a wonderful opportunity that you won't get in New York, because the place will be packed. You won't even get in the door. But here in Philadelphia, the good news is you probably walk right up to him, have a conversation, and trade some material, and and that's a good part of it, is that we have these folks like Craig White that are so accessible.
And you know, the other thing with that is, part and parcel to that is, you have to be willing to take the criticism.
Yes.
If you approach me and say, "What do you think of this?" I'm pretty notorious for being straight no chaser.
Yes.
So if you ask me, I'm going to tell you. I'll do it diplomatically, or as diplomatically as I can.
Right.
But I won't sugarcoat, and I won't blow smoke, because that's not fair to you as whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing, because who wants to be told lies?
Yeah.
you want expert feedback, and you want to know exactly what needs to be fixed or improved or things like that. And instead of paying like $1,000 an hour for it, you just have to buy them, I don't know, a Diet Coke or something.
Yeah, I only charge $1 million a minute, so you know, it's fine. No, but it's part of that also is I've had people approach and want to do internships and do whatever, and there have been times when I've been able to do that. But you know, we're all still working for a living too, so there are times when I can't have people at a session or whatever, because then I got a client to deal with. They may not want company in the session. They may not want a lot of things. Right. So, but short answer is, if you approach me, if I can help people in any way, I will, because you know, frankly, that's how I got where I got. A lot of people help me. Right. No one in this business does it on their own. Right. No, I don't care who you are, what you do. You have to have help. You'll get help, and if you take advantage of it, you know, you'll be successful. If you don't, you know, you won't.
For folks who are saying, "Hey, listen, I'm going to be the next big thing here, me and my band, and we need someone like Craig White." How do people get in touch with you? How do they hire you?
A lot of ways. I get a lot of referrals from previous clients. My email address is craigwhite722@gmail. I'm on Instagram at, now this is tricky, _sound_doctor.
_sound_doctor.
That's on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. You know, as Craig White. So you can
pretty easy to find.
Pretty easy. Yeah, I'm not hard to find, and you know, feel free to reach out. I'll do what I can, and if I can't, you know, I'll let you know.
Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, everybody, we're with the great Craig White here, sharing time. He's in Philadelphia. He's accessible. He's outstanding, and he'll be at William Street Common, you know, judging the R&B category of PHL Live Center stage. You know, on November the 27th.
I'm looking forward to it.
And so check him out as well. And we'll be right back after this commercial break with MC Chelci B. All right, we are back. We were talking with Craig White. He has over 40 years, or about 40 years, in the music recording business. He has seen it all, done it all, and his name is attached to Grammy Award-winning and Grammy-nominated projects, Sound Doctor Productions. That's Craig White. And before that, we were talking to Robert Reed. He is the Executive Deputy Attorney General for the Office of Public Engagement for our Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, and he was talking about reentry and other crime-fighting tools and resources and programs that the Attorney General's office has. In case your jurisdiction doesn't happen to have one, don't forget the Attorney General's office. But now we're joined by MC Chelci B. And she is a aspiring comedian. She also is available to be an MC for events and also a inspirational speaker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'd first like to thank you for the opportunity. It's greatly appreciated for a small fry like me, you know.
Oh, well, listen, you are the topic. I mean, so let's start with this. I mean, basically, what made you want to be a comedian in the first place?
So laughter has always been a thing that's connected me to people in general. Honestly, where I am now, I'm a therapist by trade, and what I've seen and noticed is that using certain tools in therapy and adding some laughter to it, you get a really, really good result. So another part of the things that I'm doing is looking at starting a workshop that actually focuses on martial arts, so Aikido, if anybody's familiar. So focusing on...
I am.
Right. So focusing on Aikido, as well as dialectic behavioral therapy, or DBT, and then some jokes, you know, and just really us kind of connecting and making a safe space and really starting healing. So, you know, the district attorney, assistant district attorney.
Executive Attorney General.
Excuse me, because those things are important. As he was talking about, you know, healing really is what he was saying in his platform, and that's what I'm going to be talking about too. Is the healing of the people. You can't just put someone out into society and expect them to flourish. They need to heal a couple of things first, and I think, you know, the climate of just things around us in general, whether that be your personal, whether that be outside, no matter what it is, we all need to heal.
Right.
So you know, it's
Yeah.
part of the thing
So by trade, you are a therapist, a mental health therapist.
Indeed.
And so you actually have quite a good educational background, which listen is not surprising for people with a sense of humor that they're well educated. But many times people don't think so.
They don't.
They think you're just like funny.
They think you're just
and they
funny.
couldn't get a job.
Right. Yeah, you were the class clown, never paid attention.
But
So
you actually got your master's degree.
I did. I got my master's from Bryn Mawr College. I got my undergraduate degree from Ursinus College, small school, great school. Shout out UC.
Yeah, I was just at Dickinson the other day.
Hey, look at you. All right. So, yeah, I mean, and joined a sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. They have been very, very, very good to me. I mean, the amount of work that I've been able to do and just the community has been amazing.
Now, we met at the Miss Black America pageant, and you have hosted that
for 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Yes.
So you must be doing something right.
I must be. They keep on calling me back, right? So the Miss Black America pageant, actually I'm very excited about the upcoming year.
50th anniversary,
50th anniversary, and we will be televised this time. This is gonna be a big deal. Just I have some talking points. I have to turn the pages.
Please.
So they talk about the Miss Black America pageant. There's a year-round support that we do. So we have youth programming, we have leadership, our reigning Miss Black America. Brittany Lewis.
All right.
Brittany Lewis, yeah.
Lewis.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
But not really. So Brittany Lewis.
I just pulled that off my top of my head. I was wrong. Brittany Lewis.
Brittany Lewis, she's a great person.
Yes,
I think you've
is.
actually met her
Yes,
too.
she
She's
is.
wonderful.
Yes.
So she has actually said, you know, reasons why you'd want to be a part of the Miss Black America pageant, right, is to celebrate Black identity and culture. And I think a lot of times when people hear pageant, it's almost like that kind of stigma that you just kind of placed on comedians, right? Where it's like,
you want to crack jokes when you're emceeing?
I will definitely always crack jokes when I'm emceeing. It actually, you know what it does for me too? It makes me feel better because I get nervous, and whenever I get nervous, I just start to crack jokes, and it kind of evens things out.
Well, let me ask you this. So when did you decide to say, hey, listen, I'm not just going to be funny in my work or in my social life. I'm going to go out and try to earn a living being a comedian?
So, I would say that it was that decision is still being made. I would say.
Okay.
I think it's all a big transition. Like, just like Craig was saying earlier, when you have any craft, not just music, you really have to let go of everything in order to be amazing at that thing.
Right.
And I am at that point of letting go, and I am not there yet. I'm not gonna, sit here and attest to being, fully supported by my words, witty words.
Quit your day job.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Shout out to Archie.
Yes.
Anyways, so but yeah. So I think for me, it's just not really a full decision, but definitely coming into contact with people like yourself.
Right.
You are inspirational to me, in many regards. I think that being multifaceted and being able to connect to people on more than one level is always, always very important. And I think you show that time and time and time again. I see you all the time, everywhere, doing everything.
Well, thank you. I'm
Yes.
hip hop's Citizen of the Year this year.
I was actually just about to say that.
Hey.
Philly Hip Hop Award, Citizen of the Year.
You can do a whole comedy routine around that.
Listen, I want to see you bust a move first.
Yes.
And
yes.
then you can officially get your award.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What is humor to you?
Oh man, humor is an awakening of the soul to me. I think that a lot of times with humor, it's very fluid. It's like, or it's like air. It can go into places that you didn't even know it could go. You know what I mean?
Right.
And fluidity, like I can flow from talking about something that's very, very important, very deep, and then flow into something else that's just very funny, and no one thinks anything of it.
Right.
It's just, oh, that's Deandra. She's funny.
You just move from one space to the next.
Right. And again, I said Deandra. That's my real name, Deandra Thompson, MC Chelci B.
Right.
Also known as,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not hiding your identity, by the way.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about this name, MC Chelci B? Just 2 seconds.
Yeah, tell me.
So I went to a fight night one day, and they had these name tags, and you had to put down your name. And one of my girlfriends were like, "Oh yeah, your name is Chelci," and I was like, "Sure." And the other girl's name was like Brenda.
Is that why it's misspelled?
Yes, yes, it's spelled funny, Chelci.
Okay, yes.
B,
yes.
yeah.
I couldn't find you. I was spelling it correctly.
Right.
And then I saw that you spelled it a different way.
Right, because I'm different. You know,
Yes,
you gotta be a new wave.
Well, listen, that's how I would have spelled it had I not known the incorrect right way of spelling it. Because it actually says Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea.
But you spell it Chelsea. Yes, that works too.
Indeed, yes. So, you know, honestly, I can't say enough that I appreciate just the time being here and being able to speak. You know, shout out again to the Miss Black America pageant. They've done a lot with me in regards to working in the community. We've done 3-on-3 basketball tournaments to help the community.
Right.
We've done gone into schools and really like taught children the oath of positivity. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it is an amazing program that they have. And again, the 50th anniversary will be next year.
Yeah.
And if you guys want any more information on that, you can go to Miss Black America Pageant 2017.com and get further details on that. And
no, if people want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
if you want to get in touch with me, you can definitely just hit me up on Facebook. So I'm not a websiter. That sounds like a lot of work, you know. And like you said, I haven't quit my day job, right?
Yes,
so we don't want a lot of work.
Right.
Right, so you can just find me on Facebook, MC Chelci B, and that's CHELCI-B. So Chelci B. And I am available for anything. Listen, I can give you anything. If you want like a fast talker, if you like a slow talker like this, I can do that. If you want me to be an announcer at a kid's game, for a birthday party, for an event, anything you like, I can switch it up.
Can you be the sophisticated lady?
Absolutely, darling. I can
Right.
be whatever you'd like me to be. I can be sophisticated at like a
You got
dinner
the
party.
gangster look on your
On my profile.
Yeah, you
Oh,
do.
that lean over.
Leather jacket and all that.
Right, with the lean.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm very coy, and dainty, like if I need to be. Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, do you have any shows coming up?
So any events coming up? My first event, I think larger event, would be in January. And I'm going to be doing something again with the Miss Black America pageant as we kind of push forward to, you know, just new events. And again, like I said, just go onto the Miss Black America pageant 2017.com and you can find all the information there. And any information of what I have going on, you can actually find on my page. And, you know, like my page. I just
put it up.
Just put it up, yeah.
When did you put it up?
Oh, like an hour ago.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like MC Chelsea B official.
Official.
Yes.
Yeah, just in case somebody
I'm your
tried
third
to.
like.
You are. Give me some. Give me some. That's what I'm talking about, Councilman. You got to support me. I appreciate it. I really do. I mean, I actually just want to talk about supporting you for one of your fundraising projects with the Green Berets.
Yeah,
and that was
thanks for being
yes,
there.
that was an amazing event. I had an amazing time, definitely with the hoorahs. And
yes.
I'm not saying it like I'm not a hoorah. I'm
Right.
just, you know, okay?
Yeah,
I don't want any trouble.
Good time,
It
good
was.
cause, people appreciate it.
Indeed. Good turnout, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely thank you so much. Again, and Philly Hip Hop Award. Will you be busting move for the camera?
No, that would be out of character.
That would be,
like, you
you're
know,
right.
yeah,
You're right. What was I
they
thinking?
kind of include me, which I appreciate. It is kind of paradoxical, or whatever it is, but I truly appreciate it because you know they wouldn't give it to me for no other reason. They really want to.
So can I tell you why? I'll tell you why they gave it to you, right? And I have no association or affiliation with them, but the reason why I think is for what I was talking about before. You're able to connect. Whether or not you can identify, it's not really important. It's the connection that's important.
Right.
The culture might not be in a culture you identify with, but you are able to connect to the culture as though you were here.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the main way that you do something like that is, you know, being yourself.
Just be yourself.
Be yourself.
All right, fantastic. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up here in a second. You know, but definitely MC, the letter M, the letter C, Chelsea, CHELCI, and the letter B.
That's
MC
right.
Chelci B. She can host, she can be your comedian, she can start your events, and she can be an inspirational speaker. And listen, she's very well educated.
Indeed.
Mental therapy, health therapy, and
That's
those
right.
type of things.
That's right.
So listen, tune in next Tuesday, 2 to 3 for In the Know with David O.